Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. So a couple weeks ago I uploaded a beginner's guide for the brand new DJI Neo 2. In that video we mainly focused on basic functionality, using it autonomously, flying it with a traditional controller. Now in this video we're going to focus on flying the DJI Neo 2 more FPV style, utilizing some of the FPV capabilities, flying it with goggles and the Motion 3 controller. You can purchase the Neo 2 as a motion bundle that's going to come with the drone. It's going to come with some spare batteries and a charging hub. It's going to come with the Motion 3 controller, and it's going to come with a set of goggles. These are the Goggles N3. Now, if you've purchased a different combo of the DJI Neo 2 and you don't have the goggles or the Motion 3 controller, they can be purchased separately, and you'll be able to bind them directly to the aircraft. Now, I also want to mention here that the DJI Neo 2 is also compatible with the Goggles 3. These are more of a higher end set than the N3 goggles. So if you are going to be purchasing a set of goggles for the DJI Neo 2, you have the choice of either of these goggles. These do cost a little bit more money. Or if you already own them, they are fully compatible. On top of that, if you don't want to use the Motion 3 controller for flying, you want a more traditional FPV experience, the DJI Neo 2 is fully compatible with the FPV 3 controller. This can be bound to the aircraft as well. And in this video, we're going to take a look at that first. We're going to talk about getting the firmware updated on all this equipment and how to bind the goggles to the Neo 2 if you need to do that. Now, another important thing I just want to mention here is that if you have purchased the Neo 2 as a standalone drone, you didn't get it with a controller, you will have to purchase their transmission module, as this is required to connect to the controller, the Motion 3, the FPV 3 controller. This is a separate purchase, and you won't be able to fly the Neo 2 without this, so make sure that you do order one of them as well if you have to order the gear separately. Now at this point I'm going to show you how to update the firmware of the drone, the goggles, the Motion 3, as that will need to be done first before we can fly the drone. Now I'm going to be demonstrating on my Goggles 3 just because my Goggles N3 are already updated. After we've updated the firmware, I'll demonstrate how to pair goggles and the Motion 3 to your Neo 2 if you have purchased them separately and they didn't come bound. Now, as mentioned, if you already purchased the goggles and the motion controller with your Neo 2, they're already going to be bound, but you will still need to update the firmware. Now, I'm going to be demonstrating on Goggles 3, but this works the same way with the Goggles N3. And then we're going to launch our DJI Fly app. And what we have to do is plug our goggles with the included USB-C cable into our phone. And I find it works best if you have the goggles powered off when you plug it in. It doesn't really matter, you can have them on, but I find it doesn't always trigger the firmware update. On the Goggles N3, you would plug it into this USB-C at the top here. On the Goggles 3, you plug them into the bottom there, USB-C port. Power them on, double press, quick press, and then a long press. And they'll go ahead and power on. And we should get a notification on the screen right away that there's some firmware that needs to be updated. And as you can see there, we just got a notification that some firmware is available. You can tap on it and you can see it's saying it's adding support for the Neo 2. Now, before we start the installation, it's a good idea to pair your motion controller to the goggles. Again, if you bought them as a kit, most likely they're already paired. If not, we have to do that manually. So I'm going to power this on as well. Again, quick press and then a long press. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to pair the motion controller to the goggles. And again, this works the exact same way if you're pairing it to the N3 goggles. To put it into pairing mode, we're going to press and hold on the motion controller. It's going to start beeping. That means it's in pairing mode. And we're going to do the same for the goggles. We're going to press and hold on the power button. And you can see they went ahead and paired. Now, if your equipment's brand new and you tap on that again, it will list an update for the motion controller as well. However, mine's already been updated, so it's not going to list it there. Now, at this point, all you have to do is tap on download, and it's now going to update the firmware on both your goggles and your motion controller. It's going to take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. It's just important not to turn the equipment off while it's updating. You will get a notification at the end that everything's been updated successfully. Now at this stage, I'm already assuming that your Neo has the latest firmware. If not, you will have to update the firmware on this as well. Now, if you're going to be flying with the FPV controller, you would do the exact same procedure, but instead of pairing the motion controller to the goggles, you would pair your RC controller to it. You pair it the exact same way. When it's powered on, you press and hold the power button, press and hold the power button on the goggles, and they will go ahead and pair. So the goggles restarted and we got a notification. We got a check mark there saying everything has been updated successfully. So once that's been done, you can disconnect your phone. Now, as I mentioned earlier on already, if you've purchased your Neo as a motion combo with the N3 goggles and the motion controller, you can skip this next step as they're already going to be bound together. However, if you've purchased your Neo separately and you already own goggles or you've purchased some goggles to use with your Neo, we now have to bind the aircraft to the goggles. Before you power on your Neo, you want to make sure you have the transmission module attached to the back, as that will have to be attached in order to be able to connect to the controller. Now at this point, we're going to make sure we have our goggles powered on and our motion controller powered on. Make sure that they're paired. You'll know that they're paired because that stays solid. If they're not paired, just follow the procedure that we did earlier. Long press on the power button and then long press on the power button on the goggles. They will go ahead and pair. Now, before we can pair the drone to the goggles, we have to make sure we select the Neo 2 in the goggles settings. These goggles are compatible with many different drones, so we have to select the appropriate drone first. And it's very simple to do. We're going to use this button here at the top of the goggles and again on the top of the N3 goggles. If we just pull to the side, so we're going to push that way, that's going to bring up our menu system. We're going to select the very top option, again using that joystick to navigate. And then we're going to press on the joystick. That's going to go into that menu. There's a drop-down menu where we can select what drone we want to connect it to. As you can see, it lists all the different drones, but we want to select the Neo 2. Once we have it selected, we're going to hit the back button here at the bottom. That's going to get out of that menu. We now have the goggles set up to be paired to the Neo 2. So we're going to go ahead and power on the Neo 2. Just like all the other devices, a quick press and a long press. It's going to go through its gimbal calibration there. So now we have to put this into pairing mode and the goggles into pairing mode. And it works the same way as how we did it with the motion controller. We're going to just do a long press on the power button until it starts beeping. So it's now in pairing mode. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the goggles. We're going to do a long press on the power button. And as you can see, everything just went ahead and connected. So our motion controller is paired to the goggles, as is the Neo 2. All right, so we're going to go for a quick test flight here, and I'm going to demonstrate a few things. Now, just like I mentioned in my initial beginner's guide, where I went over everything, all the different flight modes, for your first FPV flight, again, I highly recommend finding a nice open field. Places with not a lot of obstacles or people. Where I'm flying right now might not be the best environment for your first flight, so it's something to keep in mind. And again, make sure you research the rules and regulations in which the country you live. Now, as we talked about earlier on in this video, at this point, I'm going to assume you already have your firmware updated and all your equipment is bound together, the controller, the drone, and the goggles. So what we're going to do here is power everything on, and we're going to go for a flight. So I'm going to power on the drone, and I'm going to put it out in front of me on a pad. You don't need to have a pad, but they do come in handy, especially if you have long grass, wet surfaces, sand. You can take off from the palm of your hand when flying FPV, but it's just a good idea to have it out in front of you until you get your bearings. So I'm going to be flying with the Goggles 3 today, but this works exactly the same if you're using the Goggles N3 that came with the kit. So we'll power these on, and we'll power on the Motion 3, so everything should be connected. And you can verify, just look through the goggles there and make sure you have a video feed. Also check to make sure there's no errors on the screen. Now, just like when you're flying any drone, you want to make sure you have satellite connectivity, a good amount of satellites so it can set a home point. And you'll know how many satellites you have by the icon down in the bottom right-hand corner. Right now I have 16, so that is more than adequate. So I'm going to show you how to take off here and a few basic controls. This button here, this big orange button, does a few things. A double press on that will get the motor started. Another double press will shut the motors off. When the motors are running, if we do a long press and hold it, that will launch the drone, which we'll be demonstrating here in a second. That's also a brake button, so if you're flying around and you get into some trouble, just tap that button and the drone will come to a complete stop. This button here is our mode selector, so we can go from sport mode
to normal mode. If we press and hold it, it's also our return to home. This joystick allows us to do some certain maneuvers, and it also allows us to do easy acro maneuvers, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a second. This dial here can adjust settings, and the main button here is the trigger button. That's how we accelerate, and we can actually reverse as well by pushing up. So those are the basic controls that we're going to be using. And to maneuver the drone, it's actually very simple. Pushing in the trigger is going to move the drone forward. Pulling back on the trigger will move the drone in reverse. To raise and lower the altitude, we're just going to tilt up. That's going to raise the drone while we're flying. And if we tilt down, that's going to lower the drone. The other movement is turning. And all you have to do is turn from side to side, just like that. So if you want to go left, you just move it left. If you want to go right, you just move it right. You want to avoid doing this. A lot of people do that to turn it, and it will turn a little bit doing that, but that's not really the movement. You just want to go side to side for the most precision. So I am going to put my goggles on here, and I'm going to start recording, and I'll show you a few things in the menu system as well. So I'm going to hit the side button here to start recording. You'll notice here we have a virtual pointer, and this is how we can adjust settings. So for example, I can tap over there on the side. That's going to bring up all our settings. I can tap at the top here. Again, this is going to bring up some settings up here. And actually, I'm going to turn on my defogging. There we go, because it is starting to get a little fogged up. So that's how you turn your defogging on and off. And there's other things in here we can do. We have easy acro. That allows you to do flips and rolls. And we have head tracking, which we're going to maybe save for another video. I just want to cover the basics in here. Down at the bottom, you can see down here, this is all of our telemetry, our height, our distance, the speed at which we're traveling. And it also displays here our speed mode. Right now we're in normal. Down here is some information that's very important. There's our battery information. This is our RC strength and the visual strength of the feed back to our goggles, our obstacle avoidance, our satellites. So that's something important you want to keep an eye on as well. And how much power we have in the goggles. If we go to settings here, you can see we have safety. We can set our max flight altitude, and with the Neo here, the max altitude is 120 meters. We can set our distance. Right now it's set to no limit. We can set our return to home altitude, which can be an important setting. We can update our home point if needed. And down here we can calibrate our compasses if we do get any error messages. All right, so I'm just going to demonstrate here a quick flight, show you some basic maneuvers. So to turn the motors on, we're going to double press the orange button here. So the motors have now started, but it hasn't launched yet. And again, make sure you have enough satellites and a home point that has been set before you do this. So now to launch it, we're going to press and hold the orange button until we hear that beep. And now it's going to go ahead and take off. As you can see, it's going to just sit there and hover right out in front of us. And it doesn't matter how I move the stick because we're not touching anything. The drone is not going to move. GPS will hold it perfectly in place. Now, some basic maneuvers. If we press the throttle in just a little bit, that allows us to rotate the drone. So I'm just going to touch it. And as you can see, as I tilt the motion controller to the right and left, the drone mimics it. Now, if we press the throttle in a little bit farther, that's going to start moving the drone forward. As you can see there, the drone is going away from us. And I can actually go in reverse by pressing up. Now, the other thing we can do is raise the altitude by tilting up and lower it by tilting down while we're moving. So I'm going to press in the throttle a little bit, and I'm moving forward. Now I can raise the drone up, tilt the motion controller up, and I can lower the altitude by pointing down. So now you can use a combination of all three maneuvers. I'm just going to put my goggles on here. So I'm going to push the throttle in, and I can tilt to the side to avoid obstacles. If I want to go up higher to get above stuff, I can just point it up. And you can see that crosshair and circle. That'll give you a rough idea of where you're headed. And as you can see, it's very easy, it's very fluid. You just point that circle where you want to go, and the drone is going to go there. Now, for your first flight, you don't have to go too far or too fast. You can just leave it in normal mode. And just like an accelerator on a car, the farther you press the throttle in, the faster it's going to go. And the obstacle avoidance is going to prevent you from bumping into stuff. You can see it won't let me hit the tree. However, just keep in mind if you're in sport mode, it will run into obstacles as that obstacle avoidance is disabled. So you just have to gently fly around your first couple flights. Just get a good feel of how the drone behaves, how it reacts to the movements of the motion controller. You're going to find as you're flying and moving around, you're going to get comfortable very quickly because it just makes sense the way the motion works. DJI did a really incredible job. And if you do get a little braver, you can pop it into sport mode. That's going to allow you to fly a little bit faster. I might just do that now. Just remember, once we're in sport mode, you no longer have obstacle avoidance. So we'll just go for a flight here. Again, just point the circle at where you want to go and don't hit anything. And you'll find that the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, and you'll start getting a little bit braver, going through little gaps, and you can get some really interesting shots. Now we have something called a virtual home point. So when you're flying and you get disoriented, you can see that H there. All you have to do is kind of follow it, and you can see there it is there. There I am down there. When the battery gets low, it's going to automatically come home just like any DJI drone, or we can press and hold the return to home button. Just be very careful when using it because the obstacle avoidance can't see really thin branches. You can see that tree out in front of me, all the leaves have fallen off. So there is a potential that it could fly right into that. So you do have to be careful while you're using return to home. But I'm going to press return to home. And here it comes here. Just be prepared to hit the brake button, that orange button. You can see it's up above us. And now I took off from this tree here, so it might come down in front of this tree. Now the other thing I want to show you here is this joystick. This joystick can help you move the drone, maneuver it a little bit easier in some situations. So for example, I can press up on the joystick, the drone is going to move up, and I can press down on the joystick and the drone is going to move down. So that could be a nice easy way to lower your altitude or raise your altitude if you feel more comfortable using that. And we can go from side to side as well. When it comes time to land the drone, we can press down on that joystick. The drone will go ahead into its landing mode. But the other way we can do it is just putting our hand under it. And you can see, just like when using it autonomously, it will just go ahead and land in your hand. So now I'm just going to demonstrate here how to enable Easy Acro. Easy Acro allows you to do some interesting maneuvers such as flips and rolls, and it's a lot of fun. But again, I would probably wait to start doing that until you have a little bit of experience, but I'll just show you how to enable that. Now all we have to do is tap at the top here. I've already got mine turned on, but you can see this option here called Easy Acro. You just want to make sure that that's toggled on and highlighted in yellow. And you're going to notice we get this new menu here at the side, which is a little hard to see here on the screen, but let me get the drone up in the air and I'll show you how that works. So now you'll be able to see a little bit better. You can see we have an option for slide, drift, and flip. So let's do flip first. And it's starting to rain. Oh my goodness, I gotta get this done quick. To do a flip, all you have to do is use the joystick here. You can see if I press up, the drone is gonna flip frontwards. If I press down, the drone is gonna flip backwards. Now if I flip to the side, the drone is gonna flip to the side. So a lot of fun, and you can do that while you're flying as well. Now if you want to change to the different Easy Acro modes, just use this dial here on the side. As you can see, as I roll it, we can go from slide to drift. And I'll just demonstrate drift here. Drift allows the drone to flip, or turn I should say. Let me hit the thing, as you can see there. It just drifts and now starts flying backwards. We can do it the other way. So you can get really creative with that. You can drift through little openings. So yeah, that's just a quick look at Easy Acro. Now I couldn't cover everything in this video. There's a lot to the Neo, a lot we can do with it, especially with FPV. So if this is a drone you're interested in, make sure you're subscribed, as I will be covering it fully. We're going to dive deeper into some of the specific features of it, tutorials, different tips and tricks. So definitely stay tuned for them.